going on? No, I just have this.
Yeah, so, you know,
Making sure
you get this
that
right
I didn't
then,
take
yeah.
a seat. Yeah, yeah. She'll introduce you.
Gotta keep my.
See how they turn green?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, when we talk, it activates.
You know what? Everybody move over. Sorry. Sorry.
See, you were in my seat.
Yeah. Sorry. Tell me when, Andrew. Okay, thanks. Welcome to the Candidate Forum hosted by the League of Women Voters of Aurora, Elgin, and Central Kane County. My name is Patty Lackman, and I am from the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County. Thank you to Mayor Schelke, who is not here tonight, and the City of Batavia for affording the League the opportunity to once again use this wonderful council chambers for our forum. I would also like to thank our friends at BATV, Batavia Access Television, my friend Andrew Van Meter over there, for once again airing our forum. At this time, I would like to introduce our moderator, Barb Lymans, who will provide information about tonight's forum. Welcome, Barb.
Thank you, Patty. Welcome to all of you who have joined us for the Circuit Court 16th Judicial Circuit 4th Sub-Circuit Candidate Forum. And welcome to the candidates, Republican candidate David Clement and Democrat candidate Sandra Pargo. The League's purpose is to promote civic responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government and civil civic discourse. Throughout its history, the League of Women Voters has been providing opportunities for candidates seeking public office to speak directly to the voters through forums. A forum is not a debate. A forum is not the place for personal attacks or negative campaigning. The League of Women Voters strongly encourages candidates participating in a forum to use their allotted time when answering questions to inform voters of their goals, ideas, and positions. Voters will base their decisions when casting their ballot on what a candidate will specifically do if elected to office, not what their opponent won't or didn't do. So all candidates this evening have agreed to abide by the ground rules established by the forum. These rules specify the format, time limits, broadcasting of the forum, and other rules of conduct. Candidates are expected to accurately represent the facts, and their responses reflect their own views and opinions. The League of Women Voters is not responsible for the accuracy of statements made by candidates. It is the responsibility of you, the public, news media, opposing candidates, to fact-check statements made by candidates if necessary. The candidates will begin in alphabetical order with their 1-minute opening statements. Then they will alternate in order in which they answer questions for 1 minute. After the question portion of the forum, each candidate will give a 1-minute closing statement, continuing with our alternating pattern. A member of the League will be acting as timer, and I will enforce the time limits. Candidates, you will be alerted that you have 15 seconds and then stop. Should a candidate exceed the 1-minute time limit, I will ask them to finish their sentence and move on to the next candidate. To ensure that the questions for tonight's forum represents a balance of topics, a panel of experienced members of the League of Women Voters have reviewed the questions submitted for appropriateness and to avoid duplication. We are very grateful to those in the community who have taken time to learn more about the candidates before casting their votes by attending or watching the candidate forums. For those in attendance, we request that you do not take any photos or video during the forum. Please listen attentively, turn off your phones and electronic devices, avoid commenting or disrupting others during the forum, and refrain from applause until the end of the forum. Finally, I want to say how appreciative we are of the candidates who are not only willing to serve in office, but agreed to be here this evening to share their ideas and goals. So let us get started. Candidate Clement, you have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Thank you. I think through the course of the forum tonight, you'll learn more about my professional background, so I'll tell you a little bit about who I am personally. I am David Clement. I've lived in Kane County for 40 years. I'm married to Claudia Clement, who's seated in the audience. She is also a lawyer for 40 years. We have 4 children. They are all grown and out of the house and employed. We have 3 dogs who are all still in the house and unemployed. I went to law school at Northern Illinois University, graduated in 1981, began my career, graduated in 1984, graduated college in 81, began my career at the State Attorney's Office for about a month, then went into private practice where I practiced for 9 years with my wife, and then I moved to the Public Defender's Office, and I've been a judge since December of 2010.
Thank you very much. Candidate Praga, your 1 minute opening.
All right, thank you to the League of Women Voters of Batavia for the opportunity to introduce myself to the voters. My name is Sandra Parga. I'm one of your judges here in Kane County, and I am running for Circuit Court Judge in the 4th Sub-Circuit. So the 4th Sub-Circuit roughly runs from Randall Road to the county line with DuPage and from Route 20 down to the tollway in Aurora. Associate judges are appointed by the circuit court judges. I was appointed in 2017 after practicing law for 23 years, doing civil law, criminal law, family law, serving as a guardian ad litem for children and seniors, and also as a mediator in divorce cases. For the last 4 years, I've been your juvenile court judge, working with families and children in our juvenile justice system. I am running to be the circuit court judge because I have a proven record of service both in and out of the courtroom, and I want to continue to work to ensure that our legal system works best for you, our voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Parga, we're going to start the first question with you. Can you describe your judicial philosophy and how does it influence your decision-making process?
So I believe that as judges, it's really important that we are always acting impartially, objectively, not imposing any of our personal opinions into the decisions that we make, but rather following the law. After we determine the facts, whether we agree with that law or disagree with it, our job is to follow it wherever it takes us, and that is the judicial philosophy that I follow in my courtroom.
Thank you. Candidate Clement, same question.
For the most part, I have to agree with Judge Parga on this. The law is the law, and we have to follow the law whether we like it or not. I've sat in a criminal courtroom since 2015. My philosophy there has been one of first trying to rehabilitate people while being balanced with respect to the rights of the victims who appear in my courtroom. We have many victims of violent crime in my courtroom, and there's the Victim Rights Act now. We have to be very sensitive to that. So my philosophy, it's not really a philosophy, it's defined by the law. You have to blend the compassion and how you apply the law to the facts before you, and that's how you decide the case. But my philosophy is one of being fair and impartial, and my personal opinions don't matter in a courtroom.
Candidate Clement, how do you balance this strict interpretation of the law versus evolving societal norms when deciding cases then?
I believe the best way to answer that question is the evolving societal norms are reflected in the number of specialty courts we now have available to us. There's a drug court, there's a DUI court, there's a first offender program, deferred prosecution program, there's a gun diversion program, there's mental health court, there's veterans court. When I was public defender back from 1994 to 2010, we didn't have any programs like that. Those programs have all developed because of the change in societal norms. So when people qualify for those types of programs where they can get help rather than just being warehoused in a Department of Corrections or even a county jail and rehabilitate themselves, become functioning members of society, that's what we do. So that, I believe the societal norms are without question reflected in those programs that are now available to us that were not available before.
Thank you. Candidate Parga, the same question.
So I too would agree with Judge Clement, but I would also add that I think those societal norms shape the type of legislation that gets enacted and the programs and laws that change and that we as judges must follow. And a good example of that in juvenile court is the societal norm and understanding that children are not small adults or young adults, that they are children with underdeveloped brains. And so we take that into account in my courtroom in terms of trying to figure out how to balance the safety of the child, the family, society with providing services for children. And that also is reflected in the types of services that are offered throughout our court system.
Thank you. Candidate Parga, the next question will begin with you. How do you ensure your independence as a judge in an environment that may have political or public pressure?
I think if the question is whether in our personal lives, I think that there is a clear division between the work that we do as judges and any outside political pressures. Those for me are very two separate things. I think as a judge, it's very important to remain independent and objective, and whatever my personal beliefs may be on any particular topic does not spill over into my job as a judge. And so there's a very clear and divisive line for me between both of those things, and I think that that is covered under the ethics and the oath that we take as judges, that those will be two separate things.
Thank you. Candidate Clement?
Repeat the question for me.
Sure. How do you ensure your independence as a judge in an environment that may have political or public pressure?
When you look at what I've done throughout the campaign, you will not see endorsements from anybody. I did not solicit any endorsements. I feel that those create at least the appearance of impropriety. I try to campaign on my own. I don't solicit help from attorneys who may appear in front of me. Lawyer or judges cannot solicit funds, but we're very careful about the funds we do receive from people who do appear in front of us in court. So we try to stay away from those things because we are required by the canons to avoid even the appearance of impropriety. And I'm always concerned about outside activities creating conflicts of interest. So I'm very careful about any of those outside activities that I engage in.
Thank you. Candidate Clement, how do you address concerns about socioeconomic disparities affecting the fairness of judicial outcomes?
I like to think that in my courtroom, socioeconomic disparities do not affect the outcomes of cases. People who are disadvantaged financially have the services of the Public Defender's Office. Judge Parga worked at the Public Defender's Office. I was there. They are some of the finest trial lawyers in the county. So I don't believe that people are at a disadvantage simply because they are represented by the Public Defender's Office. Certainly in front of me, it doesn't matter to me how much money you have or don't have, what your background is, or so forth. I have the law, I have the facts, and I have the framework with which I'm required to work in, and that's how cases are determined, not by socioeconomic background. I know there are some problems with that, but we do our best to make sure that those don't impinge on the decision-making process, the sentencing process, or anything else.
Thank you. Candidate Parga, the same question.
So I think that it's really important to be mindful of the fact that there are socioeconomic disparities in our courtrooms and in our system. And one of the things that I have worked on with new judges as faculty is our exercises that remind us as judges and new judges as they get onto the bench that we do have to be mindful of those experiences. And the fact that there are many biases that we all carry with us all of the time. And that helps us ensure that when we do make decisions, we are making decisions based on the facts of the case and not on any implicit biases that we all have in our everyday lives. But I think doing those exercises, teaching new judges as they come in to walk in the shoes of some of the litigants who are in our courtrooms who are socioeconomically marginalized is an important part of our job as a judge so that we are always mindful of those circumstances.
Thank you. Candidate Parga, do you think that there are steps that need to be taken for the judiciary to improve public trust and confidence in the legal system?
I do think that we have an issue with an erosion of trust in our judicial system, and I think it's very incumbent upon all of us as judges in the judicial system to work very hard to adhere to the canons, to be very mindful of activities that would create an appearance of impropriety, to not engage in those activities that we are prohibited from engaging in as judges. So being mindful of the canons, aware of them, and realizing that those canons apply to us whether we are in the courtroom or outside of the courtroom, that we are a judge really at all times, and being mindful of our activities is one of the significant ways in which we can help improve trust in our judicial system.
Candidate Clement?
I agree with what Judge Parga just said, and you have to govern yourself as if you're a judge, because you are a judge 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The other way to do that is through community outreach. When you are out in public, for instance, in this campaign season, when you're knocking on doors, most people don't know judges, don't know anything about judges. If you know me as a judge, that means you've been in some serious trouble, so that's not a good thing for you. But it gives us a chance to talk to people, to explain the role of judges, what we do, what